Not everything is legal.
Hello, my name is Hartam Bodko, and we are talking about having a constitutional convention in lieu of the Constitutional Assembly. We have with us Attorney Nards de Vera Law Office, and he has an advocacy. Tell us first about this advocacy before we continue to argue the points of both.
You see, historically, we have had our first constitution in 1935.
Yes, the American
But we
pattern.
were under the United States, and our constitution had to be approved by the President of the United States. But it was a constitutional convention, where the best
Con
minds.
pala yun.
Yes, it was the best. It had the benefit of the best minds, to include, of course, the great Claro M. Recto, and many legal luminaries.
Many.
They produced one of the best constitutions we ever had. Then Marcos thought of changing it.
73.
During martial law, there was a ratification. Of course, the people were required to raise their hands. So the government could identify who are against the government and who are not in favor of the government. So that is of dubious legality in terms of whether that was really expressive of the people's will. Then when Marcos was overthrown, Cory, while still enjoying the power of a revolutionary government, did not call for a CONCON, did not call for a CONAS, a Constitutional Assembly of Congressmen and Senators, but created her own
CONCOM, Constitutional
Commission.
Commission. 55-man board, yes.
and personally chose, handpicked. These are handpicked. Okay, I'm not questioning the integrity and the competence of all the people that she appointed. I'm only saying that because she had that extraordinary power, she was able to do it, and then the people ratified it. Now, we're talking about normal
You know, I
times now.
don't remember voting for the ratification of that. I don't.
There was.
There was.
Yeah, because-
Maybe I wasn't here. Okay.
Yeah, it's required. And I have something to say about ratification. But you could see that in our three constitutions, let's not talk about the Malolos Constitution.
wala
because
pa yan eh.
That was during the Spanish time. Although, by way of historical tidbit, the Philippines is the very first country in Asia that came up with a constitution.
Wow.
And supposed to be a democratic constitution. And that was during the time of General Aguinaldo. Okay. Now, so 1935, best minds, but subject to the approval of the President of the United States. 1973,
73. Marcos.
there was a CONCON. In fact, the one who presided over the CONCON was former President Diosdado Macapagal. Okay. The ratification became suspect because the people were not really free. You have to identify yourself by raising your hand. And then came the Cory Constitution.
The 87.
Again, handpicked. Okay?
55.
So all our constitutions suffered from some defects. Marcos, in terms of ratification. 1935, in terms of
the U.S.
does
President.
the President of the United States like this or not? And the Cory Constitution, because she handpicked. Okay? So the people's participation technically was not there. Now we are in the most ideal of times. We are not under a dictatorship. We are not under a foreign government. We have a recently elected president. Why not?
Majority.
Yes. Why not? In fact, Duterte got elected with a super majority. Why not do it the normal way? Now, the Constitution, as I said, provides for three ways of amending in the Constitution. But since we are talking about, well, three ways. One is the, as we said, the CONAS,
CONAS.
the CONCON, and the
People's
Initiative. In other words, all of this can be done. Our only question is, what is the most ideal? To us, the most ideal will be a CONCON, where the people are given a chance to elect their own representative. But when Congress provides, assuming Congress allows a constitutional convention where the delegates are elected, I would hope that Congress will give a reasonable time for the people to be educated on the specific proposals being given by the delegates who are running for office. It's not enough that you elect somebody who says, well, I'm for parliamentary. Now, what kind of parliamentary? Now, there are many kinds of parliamentary government. Oh, well, I am for federalism. Again, there are many forms
Many
of
kinds. So,
federalism.
magulo nga,
So,
maselan.
there must be a reasonable time to campaign and educate. Because if there is no reasonable time to campaign and educate, it defeats the purpose.
Nards, do you think we can afford another election, considering the past three are all suspect because of Smartmatic, and two, the commissioners having been appointed by, of all people, Aquino?
Yes, unfortunately, we're stuck with the system. I mean, it's not within your power nor mine to dislodge all these commissioners that some people suspect to be,
ang taas
to
ng-
be biased in favor of certain parties. Some people question the integrity of the Smartmatic automatic
No,
counting
we don't
system.
question. We
Well,
have
some
come to-
people do.
No, we've come to the conclusion they have zero integrity.
Well, many people express confidence and many people don't. So that's another issue. What I'm only saying is, within the framework of what's available, of what is functional, we have a functioning COMELEC. We have a functioning Smartmatic, though questionable, but that's the system that we are faced with. I hope someday we can put to rest the issue of whether or not the computers used in the automatic counting of votes is proven to be either truthful and authentic, or whether it
Hindi kayo
is
dapat
subject
unahin
to fraud.
yun para buon loob ng taong bayan sa Smartmatic.
Well, that
Kasi
will be ideal.
another election
Yes.
will bring about bogus candidates to have won, like some in the Senate, many in Congress.
Yes. But you see, if we take that position, I don't know how
We'll never move
effective-
forward.
Yeah, we'll never move forward. And what will happen to the next local elections that are coming within
Yeah,
the next
well,
3 years?
I have another issue. Very quickly lang. I'd like to inject it. There are strong lobby groups that are out there that protect business, and why not? For example, big businesses like the department stores, SM, Robinsons. Alam mo, meron silang lobby. I mean, I'm sure they would like to promote, to retain, sustain contractual employment. Di ba? Yung tinatawag nila endo-endo. Although, there's a thin line. I mean, the people right now are confused. Ano ba ibig sabihin ng endo? Ano ba ibig sabihin talagang contractualization? But there are businesses that require contracts because they are reliant on what you call specific projects. Pag natapos na yung project, hindi naman pwede I retain all 6,000 people. Meantime, you're providing employment. So, what happens when strong lobby groups come in? How about, in America, they have a big dilemma. It's called the gun lobby. It is it's hanging on to the Second Amendment, the right to bear arms. Tama nga naman eh, they're a democracy and you're gonna tell them you can't bear arms. At meantime, they're shooting each other in the streets. So what happens when you have strong lobby groups and they promote the delegates specifically? Oh, pumasok ka dyan, pero labanan mo, ipilit mo na naging constitutional ang contractualization. Parang ganon.
Yes, so what you're actually
Going to the
concerned about
CONCON,
is
the delegates.
vested interest
Vested
groups
interest.
entering the CONCON.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Maybe the best way to say it is in this manner. We are a democracy. And being a democracy, everyone has a right to express their opinion. That's the bedrock of our democracy, the freedom of speech. Now, speech comes from the lips and hands when it's written by natural people like us. Or it can come from artificial persons. Corporations are artificial
yes,
persons.
artificial persons. Yes.
Could you imagine our laws giving corporations the same right that we natural persons have? In fact, they have better rights because you can never imprison
You cannot.
the
Yes,
corporation.
yes. You cannot.
You can go after certain officers, but the corporation itself
Cannot.
can donate, can do anything you and I can do. In fact,
Limited liability as well.
that is why in our democracy, both here and in the United States, one of the serious flaws of our democracy is the power of the lobby vested interest groups. And it is impossible to believe that none of our present incumbent or previous public elected officials have not been supported
By lobbyists.
by lobbyists.
Well, there's
That's
only
given.
one.
That's
There's-
given.
Here, there's only one registered lobby group, kay Malutikia, Publicus. Other than
Yeah.
that, there is no
Yeah.
there is no registered political lobby group.
Yes.
But it's not true. Of course, it's full of it.
So that defect obtains in the present system when we elect officials from the president down to the council or the barangay level. That will also be a matter of concern when we have a con-con elections. Only that is more widespread. Consider this. If you are a Taipan, 5 most powerful Taipans I need not name, but everybody knows. They themselves, and from within their own circle of 5, can finance the elections from up the presidency
All the way
down to the barangay level. They can.
Yes.
Now, spreading the risk. What could be more worse? And I have a story to share with you. If the evil of lobbyists influence obtains now in our present system, where their interests are protected by special laws. They are exempted from this, they are exempted from that, their taxes are lower than the others, etc. And they can recommend appointments to the government. That is a reality we are facing now. All right?
Yes.
Now, we have only about 300 or 340 congressmen. I'm
Yes.
not exact about the numbers. That's if they have a constitutional convention, you add the 24 senators, you're talking about roughly about 350. The Taipans and the other non-Taipans, but who have an agenda of their own, will find it easier to buy. Just a majority. You don't have to buy the entire
whole.
350. You just have probably...
160, enough ka na, 170.
It will cost less money for the vested interest group. But when you open up the elections from Mapari to Holo, so that all can run, it will be harder to buy
Okay. Tama
all
nga
the
naman.
delegates. Now, there was a time, the story I wanted to share is this. Long before they opened up the frontiers of West Vermont in the United States, long before the time of Abraham Lincoln, there was a farmer who opened up and cleared the thickets and the forest, and he said, well, this is where I'll raise my family. Well, he was there, his wife, after 30 years, his wife died, and the priest came. Now, this is not a religious story, but there is a moral lesson. And the priest said, you have not been going to church, but I came here to give the last sacraments to your wife. I said, my wife is already dead. Okay. He said, well, if you don't allow me to give the extreme unction, the sacrament of extreme unction, she'll go to hell. And he said, hell? He said, Father, when I first came to this place, this forest,
It was hell.
I cleared the forest. We were bitten by snakes. We survived. I was never able to give my wife a decent gift. We raised our food. Some of my children died ahead of my wife for lack of medicine. My wife died. I will soon follow. Well, Father, if you will threaten me with hell, I will tell you that hell is no better than Mount Vermont. So if we are afraid of the evils of lobbyists controlling our congressmen, 350 of them, it cannot be any worse if we allow all the people to run
Oo nga
in the
naman.
Constitutional Convention.
We have come to the end of the program, Attorney Nards de Vera. A very quick last message before we close the show.
There are those who say that what's wrong if we allow Congress to amend the Constitution? Anyway, the people will ratify, they will approve or reject. Well, we never had any Constitution rejected. And you cannot expect all the people, the majority of the people, to be able to study each and every amendment. So mostly, many of our people, both educated or not, I mean, when I say educated, the professionals, most of them will depend upon the analysis made in the media, the talks that they hear on television and radio. But to make a systematic, in-depth study is probably demanding too much, except for a small percentage. So I would not bank on the ratification, because the ratification, there are many factors involved there. For example, somebody who hasn't read the entire provision but believes in parliamentary will say, okay na. And yet there are many provisions there that need to be changed. And many provisions there that are contained in these amendments that are disastrous to our national interest. Another point, for example, our present Congress, many of them have expressed agreement to allow foreigners to buy our lands. Now, China alone, if allowed to buy our agricultural
We'll
lands,
buy everything.
can buy the best agricultural lands from Luzon, from within Visayas and Mindanao. And then, if you allow China, Malaysia can come in and buy. You can allow Saudi Arabia to come in and buy. Why? Because food is always an issue. When there is drought, when there is El Nino in other parts of the world, they
They'll
would
take
like a stable source of food supply. Now, if you allow the foreigners to control our food supply, we endanger our ability to survive, and we become more controlled by these other vested foreign interests. Now, there was an American president who said, I don't care about the elections. I care about the nominations. Because whom we nominate, whether it's a Democrat or whether it is a Republican, it can't go beyond us. So it doesn't matter whether the entire United States vote or not, whether the voting age is 18 or not. As long as we nominate, because whom we nominate, the people have no choice but to vote. And this is what is going to happen if we allow Con Us to happen, because Congress will just do as they please, and the people are expected to ratify.
Thank you very much, Attorney Nards de Vera. I've got an idea. I will do my part. I will start discussing in this show week after week, Monday after Monday, exactly that, the different provisions, be it for parliamentary, arguments for, against it, and the different issues with it, within it, as well as discuss federal or we stay unitary. Ladies and gentlemen, we hope we're some help to you. Either way, I ask that you become critical. I ask that you become analytical. I ask you begin to have that voice, because that voice is what is called the Republic, our Republic. Maraming salamat po. Thank you very much, Nards.
Thank you very much.
You are what you watch.